Okay, let's do some core stretching. All right, so here's a spliced experiment. This is what you need to do the stretching. You need the spliced core image. You need the individual core images from each of the holes. Highly recommended that you also have some data. It could be, in this case it's MS, but it could be anything you want, XRF, whatever. And finally, you need the splice intervals. And if you have an older, if you're working with older data and all you have are splice ties and you haven't realized it yet, if you go under the COD data menu, you can go down to splice format conversion and you can change splice tie data to form a splice interval folder. All right, we're all set. And here we are. I'm going to open up the core stretching menu. Give it a double click, automatically compiled. Everything's fine. I'm going to hide that guy. I don't need this guy anymore. All right, so let's take a look at the core stretch menu. All right, at the top here we have the four basic procedures that we'll be doing. We'll be recording stretch ties, we'll be stretching core images, we'll be stretching whichever data you choose to put on the images, and when we're done with one core, we'll bring in a new core. The rest of these are one-offs or things that help you to locate your tie points. So let's start out with the very first one, which is core stretch image setup. And we'll do that. And let's do stretching for the cores of hole A. So we'll do that. And what core image do we want to stretch? We're going to stretch number 1. And we're going to continue. And okay, so what do we got? We formed a core table with core ties and splice ties, the core ties being the tie points on the core images and the splice ties being the ties on the spliced image. Now, when we opened this table, it already had 2 tie points, and that's because the section between 0 and 1 is actually part of the splice. And we know that because now if we go up here, we can say append splice lines for stretching. Do that. And here we go. The green's the top of a splice and the red's the bottom of a splice. Okay, and what we can do is then do a core stretch. That's Control 2. And you can see actually there's really no stretching going on because this is a piece of the splice. Finally, let's add some data. We can do append data for stretching. And we want A, we want to append it, and we want MS. And there we go. And it's certainly a lot easier if we have all the MS at the same scale. So if we go to COD data, plotting, and go down to set data range. I know from prior practicing with this before making the video, we start at -2 and let's go to 10 for the moment. And there we are. Okay, so now let's add some tie points. First of all, you want to put the cursors on the graph, and you want the A cursor to be on the spliced image, and you want the B cursor to be on the core image. Oops, let's grab this guy. Yeah, do it this way. There we go. And just to make things a little more visible, let's go up here to COD functions, cursor styles, and we'll make the cursors green in this case because red doesn't show up against these cores very well. And same thing with the tie point numbers. And those are these 1s, and let's make them green as well. So there we go. Here's your points. Kind of hard to see. All right, so how do we do a little stretching? Well, let's take a look. We need to stretch this section of core 1. We'll do that and do a horizontal expand first. You know, this one is not all that exciting really, so it's kind of hard to do much, but let's say we want to, there's a transition here that you sort of see here, so let's make that a tie point. You know, the data are coming down here and then sort of flattening out. It's coming down here and flattening out. So that's all right. Or maybe you want to be really picky. Let's pick this little bump there just as it comes down and sets. All right, so we want to record those stretch ties, which is Command 1. We'll do it from the menu this time. Now you see we've added a stretch point there, or a tie point. And if we want to see how it looks, we'll go up here and we'll say core stretch. You see we've stretched the image, so we've stretched this piece into this piece. And we can do the data stretch. That's Control 3. And there we go. Okay, if I hit Control Z, I go back to my original scaling. Again, this one's, there's not a lot to see here. So, you know, the data are going up here and they're going up here, but that's sort of been cut off. So what I do in cases like this where there's really nothing much, I'll put the cursor towards the bottom of the core, and then I'll move the A cursor to the same depth. So if we go to here, you can see cursor A to cursor B. That will move the A cursor to the same depth as the B cursor. You can see that down here. 2.546 and 2.5453. So that's about as close as you can get, I think. And once again, we'll go here and we will stretch, and we will stretch the data. Whoops. Core stretch. What the hell's going on? Gosh darn it, come on. Oh, okay. Let's record those ties first. All right, now let's core stretch. There we go. And let's stretch the splice. There we are. All right. And let's see. Now let's go on to a new core. So that's Control 4, new core. Still 1338A, and we're going to do number 2. So continue. Okay, so here's the top of the splice. There's the bottom of the splice. So all we need to do again are the ends. Let's do a horizontal expansion there. And take a look at these data. So we go down and then we drop off, and we go down and then we drop off. So let's pick this point right here, and we'll pick that point right there, and we'll do a Control 1, and you see we've recorded a new tie. These get sorted by depth every time, by the way. Let's make the numbers. That's the ones. Green again. There we go. And let's see. So then the data goes down to here and down to here. We'll record those ties. And then the data go up. So tops of these cores are always or often kind of messed up, so don't get too hung up about matching the very top of these things. So I'm going to go up. I don't see this down again, but that could just be some bad data. So let's just sort of put these guys. This goes up and up and up, something like that. Do one. All right, now we'll See how that looks. Do 2 and 3. And there we go. Okay, let's go back to the original Command Z. Let's see, this Command Z is actually changing my colors back. That's annoying. There we go. And same thing down. Oh, down here. There we go. Okay, now we got our points again. Okay, let's do something else too. There's one more thing you can do. So this is the spliced data. And what we want to put on, this is the stretched core A data. And we want to match it up to the spliced data. So let's plot the spliced data up here as well. And so we want to go to COD data, plotting, and we want to append data. So we want the spliced data, so that's going to be 1338S, it's MS. Don't really worry about 0 to 100 because we're going to use an existing axis, that's the stretch MS. And depth, and we want CCSF. Okay, let's do that. All right, now we've put the stretch data on top, or we put the splice data on top of the stretch data, and let's also make that a nice green. Okay, so you can see where the core 2 or whatever core this is contributed to the splice. Things are exactly the same, and then they're a little different off the end. Now this is MS data, so it's not unusual for MS to have slightly different amplitudes, just depending on the vagaries of the system. You know, I don't have any good answer for why it's like that, but so it is. So let's do the bottom here, and let's do a horizontal expand again, and let's see. So pretty obvious that these areas are the same. So let's go out to the end here, right about there, and let's record that one. We'll do the stretching. Right, and get that? Ah! Oh, God. Yep, there we are. So we're stretched. And now you can take care of any fine points if you like. I don't know that there's, yeah, you might want to see where this data goes from sort of lightish to darkish. Here it's going lightish to darkish. Let's give that a try. Control 1, Control 2, Control 3, return. So now the light areas, the dark areas, line up a little bit better. I don't know if that's really, whether that's true or bogus. Okay, so let's do another one. Control 4. We're still doing A. Go to core 3. Continue. Let's do Control 2 and Control 3. Get the splice in there. Now we got quite a bit of off splice material. So let's open this guy up. So here's a strategy when you're actually doing a fair amount of fair length of data. Rather than sort of going, this is this and this is this and this is this, pick a couple of points, if you have them, that are really obvious at either end. So at this end we got the splice tie, so that's already done. So we want to do one out here. Let's take a look at what we got. Where's my A cursor? Okay, so this dark area is this dark area, then you got this light band, and you got this light band, and it goes up and up. So let's just take the peak of this guy and the peak of that guy. And we'll do command 1, we get the new tie. Command 2, we get the core. And command 3, we get the data. Now that we've done the sort of the extremities, if you will, we can make more minor changes inside, like we did with the other one. So these guys are lining up pretty well. These guys, maybe we want to line up the base of these series of darker layers. So I'll do a Control 1, Control 2, Control 3. And there we go. Yeah, pretty decent. Well, you know, again, it depends on how exact you want to be. I might take this little peak here and this little peak here. They seem to be associated with a dark line there, though you never can tell if those are really features or not. 2, 3, and there we go. Okay. And I think if I remember correctly, if we go to the next one, command 4, next core, that's 4, continue. Yeah, oh no, okay, so we're still still working with the core that has splice, but I'm going to really quick go up to number 5 just to, oops. There we go. I don't know what happened there. So you see now that this is not included in the splice. So you can't actually do, you can't do a core stretch yet. You have to establish your first couple of points. So again, doing that sort of, far away, nearby, you can see you've got this and you've got that. So you might do a little bit on the downside of that peak. We'll do this, say here, we'll establish that tie point. And then we will go down here. You can see you've got this, let's open that up a little bit. You got this kind of zone in here of, it's got a bunch of little sort of layers. This is actually almost too high as too fine a look at it. So let's see. So we're going down. We got this little guy, and then we go down to here, and we go up a little bit. I think probably I'm going to choose right there, and I'm going to choose right here for starts. So I'll do one. Now we'll do the okay, so let's actually change the data range. So call it data, plotting, set data range. I think we will go from 0 to 15 now. That's a little better. Okay, so now we can make the minor adjustments in between the two that we just did. So let's take this point. And I think maybe, looks like those guys are probably this. Well, let's just mark that guy. And then we've got this little guy here, so let's put that guy there. And let's do this guy here. And let's see. How about that dark layer there and this dark layer here. And you have this series of little lines with a drop off there and a drop off there. And let's see how this works. So we go back up here. It's Command 2, Command 3. All right, getting pretty close. These guys line up, those guys line up, those guys line up. These white things line up. That lines up, that lines up, that lines up. So I think that probably looks pretty good. You know, you might add a point out at the end here and here if you want to stretch it out a little bit, but it's not absolutely necessary. Okay, so you can actually do cores out of sequence. If I go back here now and say Control 4, we can go, or actually, is that right? I can't remember which core we had. Yeah, okay, so we haven't done this one yet. And, you know, you could add your points. So I think that's probably enough to get you going. Oh, so one more thing, or two more things in some ways. The core stretch menu. So concatenate ties, if you run that one, it will take all the individual ties and put them together. So, you know, while you're doing this, if you look in the U1338 tie points, you'll see you'll find the stretched core images. They're all here, the ones that we've done. And then you'll see the core ties for each core and splice ties for each individual core. And when I just did the concatenate, I formed these three guys. Let's do this, and we'll edit. And here are the ties, and here are the core numbers where those attached to those ties. Okay, and one more, if you're interested, which I suppose you are, CCSF to off splice. Okay, that's going to use those ties. We'll continue. And now what we've done in the data is formed this wave called CCS off splice. So what that is the depth. Let's do this. So this is the depth in this. The off splice is the depth actually in the splice, and this is the depth in the in the core, basically. And they're the same where you have, where you've got, what do I want to say? They're the same, when the splice interval is, part of the core, but they're different. See down here, they're different in the off splice. So what you should be able to do is this. You do, let's see, COD data, plotting, new data plot. So let's plot the splice data, S and MSMS, and we'll go 0 to 100, right, CCSF, depth, that's all good. Okay, so here's our data. Now what we want to plot on top of it is COD data, plotting. We want to append data. Now we want MS. That doesn't make any difference because we're going to use the MS axis. And now instead of CCSF, what we want is CCSF off splice. L. There we go. And if we do that, basically we get the spliced, it's kind of a check of the splice data versus the splice itself, the off splice data versus the splice itself. So let's just make this guy, not that color, black, make him thick. Okay, so, here's the splice section, here's the fit of the off-splice data to your splice data. All right, this is going on a really long time, so I hope this gets you through it. I'm going to knock off now and, send me an email if you're having problems. We could even Skype. We'll get you set